Moshe, 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 come to me.
Elohim, 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 Abraham, Elohim, Yitzhak, Elohim, Yaakov.
Shalom and God bless you. Welcome to another exciting edition of Torah Watchman Show. Going international and incorporated and soon will be known as a 501c3 tax-exempt organization. Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. This is ben-Emmett with you, and thank you. First of all, I am so honored that you're subscribing and paying attention to what I'm saying. This is a very critically important news flash and very relative to so many people out there and what they're going on through their life. Yes, I'm talking about Jews in the middle of Teshuvah, their journey to forgiveness, reaching where God has created them to be from the very beginning. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. The plight of the Ba'al Teshuva Jew is the title of this Torah Watchman show. As everyone has known me, whether you love me or hate me, I will never ever tell you a lie. I will not exaggerate the truth. I will not spread lashon hara about others. I will not spread propaganda to make myself look good in front of my peers. I really, at the age of 58, I really don't care too much what people think of me. Now, if people I know that are lying about me, if I know they're lying about me and they're doing it premeditatedly, I'm talking about something that is premeditated, I will defend myself. I will defend myself because it not only does it impugn on my reputation, it impugns on the reputation of my entire family. Even my 6-year-old daughter going to a local cheder school, and I've seen her recently treated with discrimination because of her unique needs. By no fault of her own that she was born with a light touch of autism or attention deficit disorder. Whatever it is, we're all treated equally in the eyes of Hashem. So who are we to judge a fellow Jew? Who are we to judge a fellow Noahide, a ben-Noach, who are more righteous than some Jews I have met in my life? So you may say, where are you going, Rabbi ben-Emmett? First of all, let me give you a disclaimer here. I'm a proud Orthodox living Jew in an era of the Jewish enclave, Orthodox enclave, located in Silver Spring, Maryland. Kent Mill is known not as a separate municipal place or a separate zip code. It's actually close to a place named Wheaton. Regardless, Kent Mill is a neighborhood, it's a community, and it's earmarked for an arrow that simply means that Jews can carry certain things they would normally not be able to carry during high holidays, and namely Shabbat. But I've been living in this arrow for nearly 3 years now. I spent $700,000 literally to move in this arrow and not blow smoke out my tailpipe and not impugn my witness further in front of my righteous wife and daughter on Shabbat. Yes, I walk to my shul every single Shabbat, every single hog, every single day in which work is limited, and if it's within humanly possible and I don't have to work, I am walking. I get plenty of exercise living in this arrow. Baruch Hashem. Well, let's get started. I've shared with people on Facebook. Not everyone subscribes to me on Facebook. I have about 888 so-called social contacts there. Understand with social media, just because you have a friend does not mean they're your friend. Doesn't mean you should trust them as far as you can throw them. Many people think I attack Orthodox rabbis. I do not attack Orthodox rabbis. In Judaism and Halakha, you need at least 2 witnesses before you pronounce any accusation for anyone. The problem within Orthodoxy, namely, or within Judaism in general, we have a firewall built up around our lives known as Lashon Hara. We are not allowed, and we are prevented and forbidden and given an evil eye if we say anything cross or negative about our fellow Jew. Now, understand where this is coming from. It's coming from the Holocaust, okay? Because we were judged severely by the Christian Gentile nations of not being worthy of even living or existing as a nation or race or ethnic creed of people. I understand this. But, I've dealt with good rabbis. I've dealt with bad rabbis. I've dealt with indifferent rabbis. For instance, there's been reports in Israel, numerous reports in Israel about rabbis committing fraud, criminal acts and things of that nature. There's a rabbi essentially in Baltimore several years ago, about 8 years ago, when I lived in that area with my wife, and we're going to a shul there. We were alerted by a local rabbi that a rabbi has been recently arrested. Why? Because he's seeing too much in the secret area where women undress for Nida and Mikvah, without me going into much. What I'm saying is, just because a Jew completes a 4-year degree program in yeshiva, just because a Jew completes their smika, their ordination that leads to becoming a rabbi, the public figure title rabbi, does not make them righteous. Reading the Torah until you're blue in the face, reading the Talmud until you're blue in the face. Knowledge is power, but what are you doing with that knowledge? You may be an academic. You may be a scholar of the Torah and things of this nature. You may be the subject matter expert in which all Jews go to find the answers to many important questions that are critical for their life. But if you're stuck up in that ivory tower and you're completely disconnected and not empathetic at all to the needs of the vulnerable Jews out there, being kind to the stranger, and being available to meet the critical needs of orphans and widows. That is the center call and core of what it means to be Jewish, as not based on what Reb Yarvin is saying to be true, but the prophets. God has said this before. Judea was judged severely by Hashem at the time of the prophet Jeremiah, the weeping prophet. You remember when the Jews were carried off in stages of 3 into Babylon at the time of Daniel, when he was carried off? Why were they carried off? Because they revoked the year of Jubilee, and bondservants, namely slaves, they went back on their deal before God and their holy vows. They broke their vows. They misused vulnerable people. They also abused and misused the stranger in their land, people, in other words, that were ben-Noachs, people that were aspiring for conversions and things of that nature, like the Moabite woman Ruth, like Pinchas, who was born of Ishmaelites, Midianites, who aspired to be equal and be treated equal as his fellow Levitical cousins. Yes, the grandson of Aaron was not born of a Jewish mother. And I could go on and on, like Rahab the prostitute of Jericho, who helped the spies, Joshua and Caleb and others, to be able to secretly come in the land of Canaan without their location being disclosed. And she saved their lives. And she asked, I will choose to worship your one true God, just save me and my family. And Rahab was rewarded by Hashem to be included in the Davidic line. I could go on and on and on about this, but let me talk again about my life. I'm a Ba'al Teshuva Jew. I'm one of these people that woke up one day and said, I'm in a crazy world. I'm in a crazy family. I don't belong where I'm at. I don't feel comfortable in my skin. And you've heard stories about this many times before in Jews of my own plight. And what it is, you have other Jewish souls within you are trying to come out of the closet. And you hear about the Me Too world, I want to be my real self. I want to find my identity and all this. Not going there. But I'm saying it took me many, many years, 40 years wandering out in the wilderness to find my true, righteous Jewish wife and to have a daughter with her, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. But I found out that I was a Jew through science, through genetic and DNA evidence, ethnicity. Yes, I traced Semitic gene clusters on both my father and my mother's side through their respective mothers, my grandmothers and great-grandmothers, and so on. However, I was not born with the benefit of having a traditional Jewish mother. In fact, she was not born with Shabbos candles in her hands. She was not born as an Orthodox Jew. She did not know she was born of the 9.5 lost tribes, scattered out throughout the exile, the diaspora. The same Jews that Ezekiel, Elijah will call in the last days. And Ezekiel spoke about the valley of dry bones, But Eliyahu said he will blow the shofar and bring in all the exiles. If you are a Ben Noach, you're probably one of these exiles. If you are a recently convert to Judaism, whether Reform or conservative or especially Orthodox, then that means you have fragmented Jewish souls within you. And you heard that call, that trumpet call of Gabriel's shofar blast on Mount Sinai 3,500 years ago, like I have. But how are Ba'al Teshuva Jews treated in the 21st century in America? Well, they're treated much differently than they're treated in Israel. Let me get started again, okay? I have a personal testimony to give you, something that happened in my life fairly recently. And I want to introduce you to someone that I was considering to be my rabbi for some time, okay? Again, I live in an era within Kemp Mill, that's Silver Spring, close to Wheaton Metro in the D.C. area. Rabbi David Rosenbaum, I approached him and I told him exactly what I just told you. And I told him that I had to accept a conservative conversion process just to marry my righteous Jewish wife because I did not have proof. I did not believe my mother was ethnically Jewish. And based on my understanding of science, since I'm a man of science, that you need to show that you're ethnically connected to tribal Israel to be considered Jewish. Now, understood, there's traditional Jewish and there's ethnic Jewish. And unfortunately, we stopped being Hebrews after the Holocaust. And a first century rabbi decided at that time that there were not enough men to go around because most of the Jewish men had died in war and plague and pestilence. Well, he said you had to come from a Jewish mother. They could care less if you married Genghis Khan or Hitler. It doesn't matter. If you're a Jewish mother, you would have a Jewish child. And when they say what defines, like a local rabbi told me about 3 years ago, it said if your mother was not buried in a Jewish cemetery, you're not considered Jewish. Therefore, you need a complete and full Orthodox conversion. What is an Orthodox conversion? Well, it's pretty much like a conservative conversion, except it's not so forgiving. In other words, you have to move into an Eruv. You have to daven regularly. You have to demonstrate your love for the Torah, for the Talmud, the oral tradition, written tradition, learn Hebrew, and just be accountable to a rabbi or a teacher of something of Judaism for a certain period of time. And then 3 rabbis would sign on to paperwork that will go to a central affiliate organization like the D.C. Orthodox Rabbinical Council, okay? Now, I told these rabbis, I was getting on talking about Rabbi David Rosenbaum of a local big synagogue here. I'm not sure if it's modern Orthodox or what. It seems like it may be Orthodox, just simply. His name is Young Israel of Yamuna, and is a large organization, has been here quite some time. So my wife and I have been yin and yang, going back and forth to different Orthodox shuls, including Chabad, modern Orthodox, or just Orthodox, maybe trending toward ultra-Orthodox. And I found a rabbi there, and I told him about my situation. He said, well, you'd be better off getting a full Orthodox conversion. So he totally ignored my testimony of having an ethnic Jewish father, an ethnic Jewish mother on their mothers. He ignored the fact that I was a Ba'al Teshuva Jew. He ignored the fact I was enrolled in yeshiva. He ignored the fact that I already learned Hebrew and had demonstrated intent of living a Jewish life by marrying a Jewish wife and moving a Jewish home and giving charity to Jewish causes, etc., etc. He ignored that. Okay, so I went on and played along with him, okay? I told him my truth. And I told him about the Torah Watchman show. He told me to take down my videos. He told me to stop making videos. He told me to stop allowing needy Jews to stay in my home so they have a place to stay without driving for Shabbat. He put these limitations on me, and I was willing to accept this and play along. Why? Because he was a rabbi. I was someone who needed something from him more than he needed something from me. And I showed him respect at that time. He said he would put in a request to the D.C. Rabbinical Council to get the process started. Well, weeks became months, and it went on, and I never received a reply from him on this. And then COVID, even though it was dwindling down, he made an appointment with me, to my wife, and said, I will come by your house and inspect your house for kosher root, etc., etc. Well, he never showed up, and then I responded to him weeks after that event. He didn't show up. I was quite upset. My wife is even more upset. She cleaned the whole house for a rabbi. And we've had rabbis by our place before, and I've gone to rabbi home, even in COVID, wearing mask or not. But he made this bogus excuse. He said, well, didn't you get my last message? I wanted to Zoom your wife. So all of this was very upsetting, and just showed me he didn't really care anything about my soul, my nefesh. He didn't care anything about my family. He hurt my feelings. He broke my heart. And I've had more than one Orthodox rabbi here who broke my heart and let me down a trail that was very disappointing. I played the rules. I played their game. But at this time, I am proud to be a Ba'al Teshuva Jew. Even though I have a conservative track behind me, I'm living my life Orthodox in the past 7 years. I've demonstrated that. In fact, I plan on moving my family to Israel in 6 years. And did you know that today, based on my credentials I just established before you tonight, that I can aliyah my whole family with full benefits and entitlements as an exiled Jew coming to Israel to become a citizen of Israel, based on what I've told you today, based on my current credentials. But certain rabbis where I live here, they treat me like a 1/3 of a person. Like in the 1960s, the way whites treated minority blacks as 1/3 of a person. The way the slavery mindset here is endemic. It's systemic here. The way I see black Jews being treated in mostly white congregations of Orthodox shuls. People say I've come from Ethiopia, I've come from Kenya, I've come from Uganda, I've come from Yemen. My whole tribe there is Orthodox, and my whole tribe there are Jews. I want you to just sign a letter and turn it in to D.C., and then they refuse to do that. And I've had actually rabbis said, that's been my policy for 50 years, and this guy's in the 90s. And then I found out after the fact that he shows favoritism for other people that he likes, and he has closed door conversion sessions with other individuals. So this is what's happening to me. Again, Rabbi David Rosenbaum became so bad. So I started going back to the show. I went to the Sephardi show there, and I put all this on Facebook. I know a lot of you that go to a Torah Watchman show don't look at Facebook, and I don't blame you. But anyway, I went to the Sephardi part of the shul. Ashkenazi is the big part of the shul, and it was divided into a Sephardi shul, and they had a different rabbi there. Well, I went there for about 3 weeks. And then, of course, the rabbi probably talked to Rabbi Rosenbaum that worked together there as alternates to find out who is this red-bearded, Hasidic-looking Jew. And then, of course, Rabbi Rosenbaum knew who that was, so he sent me a not-so-nice email. He says, I'm glad you were blessed by the Sephardi shul. It was a wonderful congregation, but if you complete a complete Orthodox conversion by my liking, you were forbidden for Jewish prayer. And you heard me right. An Orthodox rabbi telling me, because he said, you're just a conservative Jew, therefore you're not Jewish at all, even though by the basic law in Israel, I am a Jew forever. He said that, And this individual's been here since 2010. You know, he is known in the community. He's known among halakha resources that actually do conversions in all of this. And he works with young people, and he has a great name and reputation. He claims to have a great joy from rabbinate, the being in the rabbinate service at in the first place, an opportunity to forge meaningful connections with individuals of various ages and backgrounds. I'm reading this from his profile. This is what he says, but this is not what he is. Now, I could have made a choice, and I've shared this with people that went to that show, and they said, this is crazy. This is unbelievable. This is against halakha. And I eventually reported this individual to the same D.C. Orthodox Rabbinical Council, which I'm close by, since I live in greater Washington, D.C., only because I'd witnessed it, only because I dealt with this, only because my wife has dealt with this, and I didn't want anyone else to be hurt. I didn't want anyone else to be hurt. So I recently, that led me to make this video, I did some research. Israel's High Court says non-Orthodox converts are Jews, and this went back to 2021, okay? Tel Aviv, Israel's Supreme Court on Monday dealt a major blow to the country's powerful Orthodox establishment, mainly ultra-Orthodox, Satmars and others, ruling that the people who convert to Judaism through the Reform and Conservative movement in Israel are also Jewish, entitled to become citizens. It was a landmark ruling, 15 years in the making. So this is something that the Supreme Court had ruled, okay? Another article here in Haaretz, Israeli news service. Uproar over ultra-Orthodox parties' plan to criminalize a modest dress and non-Orthodox prayer at the Western Wall. What they're essentially saying is they're segregating Jews by denominational breakouts like Reform, Conservative, Orthodox, Chabad, or whatever, especially men and women. They're separating them in partitions to access the Western Wall. It's known as the Kotel. It's noticed as known as Christians by the Wailing Wall, and essentially it is an Orthodox synagogue that's 24/7. And they were proposing to fine people up to 10,000 shekels, folks. That's $2,867 for violators, primarily targeting women who read the Torah, blow a shofar, or put on prayer shawls, or don takris, tzitzit. So the Shas party was leading this effort, and they have a lot of control of the Knesset even today. Another article here in the Times of Israel, Haredi party said to demand law banning all non-Orthodox prayer at Western Wall. Again, this is led primarily by the Reform movement. And again, Reform Jews differ from conservative and Orthodox is that they do not believe in the temple, they do not believe in Mashiach, they do not believe in the 13 characteristics of what define a Jew, like resurrection of the dead. The United Torah Judaism Party has reportedly issued a fresh demand that all mixed gender prayer be forbidden, that this egalitarian is what it's known, including in its egalitarian section as part of ongoing coalition. So they're forbidding prayer for these people, which is the Wailing Wall, the Western Wall, the Kotel, which is the synagogue of all the Jewish people in the world, and they're forbidden. But the Supreme Court has ruled over and over again. The Knesset, the majority of MKs there, have ruled that this was so-called unconstitutional or in the framework, the framers' decisions of the basic law. So what do you think about this? You have an individual here speaking to you as a personal witness, my testimony, and I'm not ashamed for what I am, okay? People demonize me all the time. People call me a goy because they say I was not born of an Orthodox Jewish mother. They make judgments of me all the time, yet they do not even daven themselves. They're secular Jews, and they admit they're not religious. And they say I should never criticize a rabbi. Well, rabbis should not criticize me either. But the thing is, they're the one that is holding a higher standard for everyone to live toward, but they don't match that standard with their own individual lives and how they treat people equally. And that's the point I'm trying to make. in the Torah Watchman show this evening. I hope this show has been meaningful to you. I hope it has touched your heart. Just know that not always are God's laws men's laws, okay? Unfortunately, since the temple was destroyed and Jerusalem was destroyed in 135 CE, we've lost our way. We've lost the first love of Hashem. Most rabbis do not want the Mashiach to come because they knew the temple would be reestablished and then they would be out of a job. Their power base would be broken and splintered apart. You know, the Mashiach would never fix stupid. There's no reason why we don't have a temple in Israel today. I mean, Judah Maccabee fought a war with the Greek Empire over sanctity of cleansing the Holy of Holies area there. He knew where it was. We don't know where it's at today. Just to light a menorah candle. And we don't even have a fistful of grain offering to offer the King of Kings. But while we judge our fellow Jews, you know, who knows where the 9.5 lost tribes are, where they are among us million. There's 14 million of us that ascribe to being Jewish. But the quintessential question is, what is the Jew? Does the first century rabbi get to say that a Jew is only a Jew born of a traditional Jewish mother, even though your father may be a descendant of the priest of Zadok and a Kohen Levi? It does not make any sense, right? But who am I to judge our halakha and our rich Jewish heritage? I love Orthodoxy. I consider myself a Haredi Jew. I look the dress. I live the dress. I behave myself appropriately. But, you know, I can wear a streamel. I can wear an Hasidic hat. I can wear a capote. I can have pale seam on either side of my head. And I walk through a park and I walk through an area. I do not look up at the sky. I do not look at the ground when I pass a non-Jewish person. I smile at them. I say, have a wonderful day. This is the public relation disaster that this Jew is trying to correct among Orthodoxy today. But it has to start with rabbis who actually give a damn about Jews like me. There's no logical reason why I've not met the minimal measures of excellence for a Ba'al Teshuva Jew to be issued immediately a letter of affirmation for Orthodoxy. But I guess I have to wait until I go to Israel to be treated the way that I have aspired to be treated in all my years of sacrifice to be the person I am today. Your humble host. Take care, and God bless, and Shalom Aleichem.